That's where his mistress lies. It sits on it.
Right, for the benefit of the tape, Mr. Postecoglou has not been Mirandized and he's currently unaware of his rights. Welcome to another one of these. We haven't had enough. We want more. So everybody was talking about Manchester City getting beaten by Spurs because we've beaten them before, and that meant it was going to happen again. It was kind of inevitable. Bookmakers didn't agree with you. Spurs, I think, were lucky to get out alive with just the 1-0 loss. I expect today to be quite feisty. We may have to embargo the entire tape because I'm struggling to see anybody say anything online that isn't X-rated about this guy now. Apparently we dominated the second half. I just think there's some cheek, some audacity about the guy, even coming out after a game like that. So let's start. Let's begin. Tony, how much did you enjoy it?
Well, just bring it back to your comment about we dominated the second half. That is
not my comment.
The comment you relayed from our dear erstwhile leading manager. That's the equivalent like saying you won an argument with your wife. That's never happened. It never happened.
Yeah.
We were awful and we were tactically inept in the first half. But and I think we were just saying, just come on air. You knew from the team sheet, immediately you saw the team sheet, you thought that's it, where this goose is cooked, because there's no way you're going to survive without the likes of Kulu, probably our two best players all season, even with Spence with his limited game time due to our erstwhile leaders' brilliant man management tactics.
Unbelievable.
And it's not even like we had another game game on Sunday or anything like that. It's just like, what is the point? What are you doing? Why did you choose that particular game to go and do something as stupid as that? And it's just, we frankly got what we deserved. Yeah, we had some chances in the second half, but Man City for most of that time in the second half just held us at arm's length to say, all right, boys, we'll give you some hope, but don't get too excited.
I felt they mopped us up. I mean, we had a couple of half chances, and that's how I would describe them. But I felt that they mopped us up. We didn't look as if we had them on the rails. We had plenty of the ball for periods of time, but what we actually achieved with it, I can refer everybody politely to the scoreline, because that tells its own story. Chris, how excited were you by what you had to sit through?
I think the excitement died on recognition of the team sheet, as Tony said. When you think that Spence has arguably been our best player, how many times we've said this over recent weeks,
and he looked great when he came on.
He drops him for that liability that is Pedro Porro. And for anybody out there who says this guy's good, tell me what he's good at. What certainly isn't defending, and it certainly isn't tracking his player. And half the time he's found, yes, I know that's what the manager wants, but he's found in Barcelona High Street, woefully out of position, and just leaves us wider open than, as Tony said, Bonnie Blue's legs. So you had him at right back, and then you looked at the front three. You had Odobert, who's been injured since the Dead Sea was just sick. You had a 19-year-old Mathis Tell, who 104 games that guy's played as a professional footballer, 23 goals. So that's 1 in 4. And most of those goals were for a Bayern Munich side that any half reasonable player would score goals for, because of the quality you've got around you. And then to the side of that, you've got Brennan Johnson. And it's true, if he's not tapping one in, he offers nothing. So you thought it's like going into a gunfight with a pea shooter when that's your front three. And you thought, why is he trying to be a smart ass when our next game's 8 days away? AZ Alkmaar a week on Thursday, so we got no fixtures at the weekend.
That made no sense whatsoever, and nobody's touched on it. Nobody asked him about it in the press conference, and it's just not been an item that people have picked up on at all.
And do you know what made me even more mad? If I could be madder than I was, it was looking at the substitutes bench and thinking Mikey Moore carried us through a turbulent time when he wasn't injured, yet he kicks him into touch for Timo Werner, who he criticised more than you could criticise any other player after the debacle at Tamworth in the FA Cup. And we know that the bloke's not going to be here. We don't want him here. He doesn't want to be here. And he's going to be gone in the summer. So why are you depriving a 17, 18-year-old kid who we are told is the future of Tottenham Football Club minutes over a bloke who we don't care if he doesn't kick a football again. He certainly shouldn't wear a Spurs shirt again.
He's on £165,000 a week, which is a ton of money for a guy. If you consider that in recent memory we've had the likes of Harry Kane on 200,000, and I know there's a bonus structure on top of all of these numbers, and it's based upon like what we're told opposed to the absolute truth. But he's on 165 grand a week, and he isn't deserving it. He should actually, in actual fact, there should be some kind of clause, and I would imagine that, like a sanity clause. I would imagine some football clubs must have it, whereby if you're not being selected, or you're not injured is unfair, but if you're not being selected, then maybe you don't get all your money, because it's just a ton of money. I mean, I know agents would probably kick up about it, but perhaps I'm being idealistic. But he's such a dreadful punt. His value, his commercial worth has been drifting like a stone on the breeze since his first spell at Red Bull Leipzig, and it's just it hasn't improved. So we've got this situation, which and this is a sort of broader one, but this guy as a manager, as a coach, we're not seeing anything whereby any players are particularly improving. So there's no coaching them to enhance them as footballers, but then we're seeing destructive patterns occurring with both Jed Spence and Mikey Moore, who should be involved, and also I would say Dane Scarlett should be involved in some capacity, because I haven't seen anything negative about any of those guys whatsoever.
Do you know what?
Which leads me neatly up to the point I was trying to make in a roundabout way, as usual, was that business, as you pointed out this morning on a WhatsApp group, Bergvall being sent out to the press.
Ridiculous.
I mean, the guy he's a minor in the scheme of things. I mean, we make jokes about the fetus and all the rest of it, but the idea that this guy is competent and well suited to come out and discuss after a loss at home, I just think it's mean-spirited. It's almost like I said to you this morning, it's almost like, well, you thought you had a good game, because I thought he was very interesting in touches, but at the end of the day, we were all out of our depth. You thought you had a good game. You go and talk to them.
But, and another thing that really gets me is Mathis Tell, this young kid, not playing but running around in a Spurs shirt up front.
Apparently he's tired.
Why are we prioritising game time for him and giving him an opportunity when we've got Will Lancashire, who scored goals galore for the youth team last season, but had to go out on loan to West Brom to get football time, or Dane Scarlett, who came back, looked good and scored a goal in Europe and then made one in the next game. Call me crazy, but I'd rather a homegrown British footballer was given an opportunity to get some game time, prove what they can provide or not, rather than pay £10 million rental fee for a 19-year-old Frenchman who I haven't got any love for. And I know he's played 4 games, but where's the potential? Because he just looks a million miles off it.
I tell you why I have a theory, and it isn't very sophisticated, but I think it might be accurate. Is that I think Ange has been told what to do, and you will play Sonny come hell or high water. You're allowed to make some changes because I don't know if you noticed, but before the game, they were in the tunnel and Sonny was there. And it's felt as staged as those stupid hugs they do before the kickoff. And Sonny was there, like waiting for. Maybe it's me, but the way I read it was waiting for the camera to be there, and then he was over and he was talking and whispering and hugging Maddison as if he was imparting, crucial instructions, because there's nobody else to be the captain because everybody else is injured. And then he was going down the line doing his usual, "Oh, come on, yeah." As if somehow that is going to have an effect. I mean, it's like you may as well put a lucky rabbit's foot in your sock. with this guy. I don't get any
I-
captain charisma off of him at all.
I refer you to the successful teams, i.e., like the Man Uniteds of the past. I know it's past, and everybody can say this sort of thing, but the teams with proper players and proper managers, where all the talking, like Ferguson would do, all his talking in the dressing room, and once they got out, they lined up, they were focused, they just stared ahead, they had their mind on the game, and they just went out there and bloody delivered. All these. It's almost. I just don't get, if you haven't done all your talking. If you haven't done your talking in the dressing room, or and you still have to go out and do all this stupid hugging and group huddles and God knows what, then what were you talking about in the dressing room?
But that's why I'm suggesting that it was staged, because that to me was for the cameras and for the fans. And so a child, and I keep going back to this because this is the where we are under Enoch world. The child sat at home with the dad would say, "Oh, look, because he isn't playing, he's gone over to him and he's giving him the secret instructions so we can win. It'll be really good." You have to be out of your mind. All of this would have been discussed in the training room in the strategy meeting, if they had such a something as an inventive and forward thinking, yesterday, the day before the game. Not as the camera is going down the line and saying, "Oh, James Madison's had a haircut." I mean, it's just bizarre, utterly bizarre. But I think that Levy has sat down with thick Dundee, because he is thick. Let's not embarrass him by pretending that he's at the same level as the other people in this division. I mean, that cobblers we got at the end. You're prying there, mate. It's just a conversation between two managers. Conversation between two managers in name. I mean, it just beggars belief. But I think Levy's pulled him to one side and done the Levy thing, which you wouldn't even chance saying, but I bet he did as well to Mourinho, and I bet he did as well to Conte. Well, obviously, we're paying £165,000 for this German international, blah, blah, blah. So we'd like to see him as a preferred choice, and tell, that's part of our relationship with Bayern Munich. And it's horse shit. What does Daniel Levy know about football? Write it on the back of a postcard. In fact, don't write it on the back of a postcard. Go to a shopping centre and find one of those Chinese guys that specialises in writing your name on a grain of rice. That's the space you'll need. He knows nothing about football. And this guy is calling the shots. And because we've got this ape, this crumpled cuckoo in charge of the team, which I am still scratching my head, or I should be scratching my beard over, he's actually taking Levy seriously. And it's just heartbreaking. And the guy comes out in his press conference, and another bon mot from the master tactician says that saw signs in the second half where we dominated, and we're now ready to push on. How are you ready to push on after you've lost after making a massive tactical bungle?
But let's not be mistaken. He's lost 14 games in the league this season. After in 27 games, we've won 10, drawn 3, lost 14. You name me another manager at a top flight club who had anything about them which would entertain the continued buffoonery of this guy. And he's clearly been told it's Europa League or bust, because it seems that all the focus is on next Thursday. And he was, I've got players coming back. Well, you didn't need to rest them. You've got 8 days until that fixture. But you know what will happen next Thursday? We will come up against a determined AZ Alkmaar team, or have a bit about them. We think we're just going to turn up, steamroll through. It'll be rainy, a little bit windy. There might be a windy day. There'll be an excuse why we don't perform. And then our fans will be absolutely, and sexuals will be absolutely amazed. How dare they beat us? We're destined to win this cup. No, we're not. Wobble your heads, sniff some smelling salts, and look at what we've been subjected to all this season. Based on the last 5-6 Tottenham performances, why do you think we're going to win anything? Just tell me why.
And then during the game as well yesterday, and I just wanted to go. I wanted to jump through the television, get onto the pitch, and slap him about the head and neck with a broken bottle. Was James Body whiny bloody boy Madison. I've never seen such a whiny little shit in life. I've seen 2-year-olds with less whining.
With
honestly,
crap tattoos, you didn't say, Tone.
Yeah, he's
Pardon?
not. I thought his tattoos. I wasn't even aware of how poor they were. That he made.
Harry Potter.
He must have gone to the same place that Dele Alli used to go to.
Or Milton Keynes.
Uncle Jack's tattoo farm.
Yeah,
Knock hard. We've probably got the radio on.
What this proves above and beyond, against Ipswich, he had a decent game. Okay, but he's a flat track bully. As soon as the going gets tough, all he starts to do, rather than try and play and try and encourage and try and take part and actually dominate and want the ball, he starts whining at the ref, and he starts whining at other people. And I'm sorry, that is the reason why you're never going to get back into the England squad. That is the reason why you went down with Leicester. And yes, he won with Leicester as well, but he had a really good team around him as well. And he had Jamie Vardy, who was absolutely on fire that season, would score with, he would score with his arse if he had the chance. So, what we're seeing now is we're seeing someone who's arrived at Spurs, is getting paid probably an astronomical sum of money, and has just kind of thought, that's it now. I don't really have to do much more now. I'm kind of comfortable in my life, and it's ridiculous. I just really wanted to smack him really hard yesterday, because you don't whine at the referee.
Go on, turn up and do it for real. Make you feel better.
I'll tell you, mate. Do you know something? If I never want to harm anybody as a whole, but metaphorically,
I'll tell you what I'm going to do to him. Right, first of all, I'm going to rip his arms off. And I'm going to club him to death with his own.
The good news is, Tone, you'll only get a 2-year suspended sentence, so it might be worth it. You never know.
Yeah. But it was
whatever you do, don't tweet anything about that. Don't say like I think you ought to go to a proper hairdresser's or something. But by all means, physically beat the living out of him in the middle of the street.
To be fair, mate, based on that MP getting off, if I beat the living shit out of him, I'd get away with it anyway. But if I tweeted about his hair, I'll probably go to prison for 2 years.
Yeah, and enjoy your porridge.
Yeah,
but no, the business with Maddison. I mean, it was moronic, as somebody quite rightly corrected me on the Substack last night. But the irony of a guy who is begging for some referee attention, and then picked up a yellow after he rugby tackled one of their players. I've never, honestly, I don't mind a little bit of handbags and a little bit of shithousery, because it does help the world go around. But I just thought to myself, wow, this is where we are. We're at the level where you've got to physically commit, actual bodily harm before you're in with a chance of stopping one of their attack moves. It's just embarrassing. $1 billion stadium, and we're serving up this dross. And the crowd, which our mate Jeff from the Substack was there, and quite rightly called it before the ball was kicked. It was full of tourists and children, and so consequently, all the died after the city started to get on top of things. And once their first goal had gone in, and they were lucky not to get 3 in the first half. We're only talking about dominance, and we didn't come close to landing a proper blow on City, for all of the huff and puff from Ange. Oh yeah, we did this, we did the other. When in actual fact, you didn't at all.
And do you know what else I found perplexing? That in the 66th minute, he made 4 substitutions at once. So you effectively almost swapping half your team on one given go. And you're thinking, where's the momentum going? Why didn't you do that at half time if you had these concerns? Because for weeks and weeks and weeks, actually, let's call it months and months and months. You've never been able to get a tune out of these blokes, and they can't get fired up for midweek fixtures. They can't get fired up for 12:30 kickoffs on Saturday, and they don't like playing at 4:30 on a Sunday afternoon as they miss their roast dinners. So you own it, buddy. It sits with you. Your job is to motivate the team and to prepare them for battle. If it's not happening, look in the mirror. Take some responsibility for once in your life.
I just want to correct you there, Chris. He made 4 substitutions, but only 3 of them actually deserved to be on the pitch.
Yeah.
It's just, again, I don't really count that as a substitution. I actually count that as being a man down. So he's actually taken a man off effectively by putting Werner on.
But Odebear was probably our most effective player. He was trying to get the ball. He was trying to take people on. And you think, he's he's come back from injury. Let's give him 90 minutes. Let him run himself into the ground. He's got nothing to lose. No,
But it
I'll
was
take him off.
Odebear as well, I would say, adds weight to any argument where you'd include Moore and you'd include Scarlett, because you've got two players there that could offer some dynamism, some forward thinking, and a little bit of wit and energy to the proceedings. But no, this guy takes off one of the guys who could have been an outlet and brings on Werner, who everybody and their dog on social media, everybody called him out for what he was and said, "Oh no, not him! Please no, stop! Please no, really don't." And then what does he do? He comes on, misses a sitter. The guy is muck, but Ange can't see it because he's been told that this guy is blah blah blah. And Levy does this whole thing by pedigree. So he has his players that he's told that are starting. You know, we miss Richie. I mean, they came out with the line last night, and saying about that. One of the press pack guys said to him, "Obviously, you're missing the impact of Solanke." Well, I hate to break it to you, but Solanke has not been a success. It's like saying, "Oh, I miss my car." What, you mean the one that was in the garage for 6 months and you occasionally tried to fix but never really could be bothered to get round and, you know, get underneath it? Solanke is a myth. He's as much of a real asset to the team as that banana bird brain Richarlison. And they're referring to him. Hello, Claims Direct.
Samaritans, Tony speaking.
bit busy at the moment.
No, that's the call back from the Samaritans to me.
Can you deep breathe this time and make yourself sound like a Scouser?
Thank you, Hardboy 9000. I'll call you back in due course.
I was just about to say that sounded a mite too specific, Chris, if you ask me.
The truth will out. The one part of the evening I have to say I did enjoy it was when the camera panned onto Levy and wife. And the wife was looking as uncomfortable as hell because she was obviously, but the crowd didn't have it in them. There was no protest at all. And
well, there were no singing in the stadium.
No,
it was it resembled.
You don't sing anything in the stadium if English isn't your first language. I mean, maybe in the future we'll have banks of Korean fans singing something in Korean. But I've got a feeling that after Sonny's gone and this other kid, good luck to him, but that it's going to take some degree of patience, some degree of blind investment in the lad to keep the numbers up. But they had video footage I saw on X after the game, and everybody just milling around underneath the TVs, drinking beer and eating.
Yeah,
it's a destination. It's a night out. The football is almost an incidental. And I'm sure there's people on those concourses. They're the sort of people that you see in a bar or a coffee shop at an airport. Nobody in their right mind would say, "I fancy a pint." "Oh, do you? Yes. Where should we go?" "Let's go to the Weatherspoons at Luton." Nobody says that. If you're trapped there, that's why you get the whole comedy thing of people necking pints at 6 a.m, because there's under no other circumstances would you be in there dining and whining. And that's what the stadium's brought us to, and it's just risible. And they probably didn't have a busker going in the clip that I saw because the guy was probably worried he'd get beaten up and his equipment stolen. It's absolutely tragic.
Do you know what? When the trumpeter starts before the games, I sometimes hope he gets it wrong and he does the last post, and it puts some camaraderie, it puts some fight, it puts some spirit into our guys, so they take to the pitch like battle-hardened veterans as opposed to the fembots they really are.
For those of us brought up on the Lone Ranger on Saturday mornings before Champion the Wonder Horse as kids, it would be funny if they did the retreat thing for the cavalry. But no, it's just but the thing is just a mockery. It is an absolute mockery. But yeah, you got Levy stood there, and you could just see especially his wife. He was a bit more hard-faced to all of this, but trying to give it the impression that he wasn't happy, but it was like being at a funeral of somebody that you didn't really, wasn't your own father, it's one of your friends' fathers.
You can have a giggle at a funeral, though, can't you?
Well, ideally, it's the only reason I attend. And I was asked to leave my father's, but I mean, this is what you're up against. But they stood there doing this mock somber routine, And it's just like, mate, you're in charge of this shit show. Don't look as if you've got buyer's remorse. Who is in charge of this Mickey Mouse operation? Hey, it's me, sir. You know, it's just an embarrassment, an absolute embarrassment. And what's his name? Paul Robinson.
Said it as it is.
Yeah, he called out Levy. I mean, personally, I think Robinson should be calling out his barber at this stage. That is I don't know if you've seen what's going on above the eyebrows, but that is a piece of work. I reckon there's about 6 cans of hairspray involved in making that look like a short back and sides. But he basically said they've not been backed, that they've spent money, they've not spent it wisely, and which is the other refrain that Spurs fans are somehow in this delusional, like through the looking glass world in which we live, put up with, tolerate, indulge the sob story. Oh yeah, well, we put a bid in. If you're serious, you go in and pay the money. There is a coming of age for blokes when they buy certain things, and it could be like a Stone Island coat, for example. 500 quid is ridiculous for a coat, but there is something about that. You spend the money, you make your mind up, you're going to buy one, you go into the shop, and the bloke says, that looks all right, and you think, yes, and you hand over the 500 quid. And Levy doesn't bloody do it. He doesn't do it. So instead of having the coat of coats with the badge and this, that, and the other, and a bit of panache, whether you like the brand or not, I'm not interested. I'm talking about making a commitment. He comes back with some coat you've never heard of, like the latest Solanke, which comes with a paper hood, and says, "Oh yeah, and it only cost me 65 million quid." You've got to put your money where your mouth is.
You look at examples of like clubs like, again, I know it's going to sound like a Liverpool love fest, but I always refer to like good, well-run clubs that are actually successful.
Yeah,
as Liverpool are. When Klopp came in, he identified they needed a world-class goalkeeper, and they identified they needed a world-class centre-back. So they went out and got Becker, they went out and got Alisson, they went out and got Van Dijk. And they didn't haggle, they just paid the money. They got on with it. End of story.
I've got to say that story I shared with you both during the week, I'd much sooner keep faith in Paratici when his ban comes to an end. I'd give him the keys to the safe every day of the week. At least we can put up with a little bit of bentness and a little bit of corruption. We're happy with that if it means we win things. But at least he knows footballers and he knows how to identify a player.
We've put up with Joe Lewis for several decades. You don't get much more bent than that. And we're allowed to say that these days because he's a convicted felon.
Yeah, now we got Johan Lang, whose eye for talent remains to be seen, and we purchase any old shite.
Should have gone to Specsavers. I mean, that guy's a waste of a suit, isn't he?
I actually wonder if they airbrush his photographs and they've airbrushed the walking stick out. Because it's what's he done? What's he done of any consequence?
Who's he brought in? Any of the, well, not decent, but any of the players that we proclaim to be decent, and all our fans get wildly carried away and say they're generational and World Cup winners, etc. They're cooking. They're cooking. Sauteing.
Ballers.
They're all Paratici signings. Look at the crap that Lang's supposedly brought in. A German who nobody wants, and then a load of kids who might come good, they might not. But and then a £65 million centre forward that at the end of the season, early summer, we were nowhere near. Yet in the last 2 weeks of the window, we were all over. And you think, is your scouting and recruitment centered around the map of the United Kingdom? Do you not know that you can get in a plane and fly to Europe and South America and various parts of the world?
But you see, the trouble is there's this massive disconnect, and it's been enhanced. It's been made worse by the fact that a lot of supporters, are feeling the pinch. They're talking about upping the money again. And for those of you joining us late, raise your hand so we can see it. Put yourself in the comments and tell us that you didn't think that the prices would keep going up and up and up under this new world order. That you're absolutely stunned and gobsmacked. It was always once you had yelped and gone, "Ooh, girders," you started something that couldn't be stopped, and so you've got a massive cultural change in the people that are at the game. You've got people that are, like I say, and it's not being xenophobic in any respect, but you've got people who aren't English in the terraces. You've got people who aren't football fans, old school football fans, and you've got kids and this, that, and the other. And you've got people who they could be anywhere. They could be at Formula One. In fact, they've now got Formula One in the building, so they'll be at home. They could be at the races. They could be at any corporate event, and they're not challenging and they're not complaining. And like I say, that game, did anybody see any signs of protest? The banner was there for that change for Tottenham thing, but again, I don't need to go through it again. But change what? Change your light bulb? You need more than change. You need to directly attack the people that are stealing the soul out of the enterprise.
The problem
and you're not
is
going to do that with two blokes holding up a bed sheet.
the problem is it's been going on for so long that we've become conditioned to the fact that we're going to lose, and we've all lost interest. We've got no emotion around it anymore, and we've got no connectivity to any of the players as they're all.
But this is one of the things I was going to say is that we're looking around the stadium and the broadcasters are selling subscriptions constantly and point out that there's Ozzy Ardiles sat there. And so Hoddle, who's obviously played with him and does a bit of golf with him occasionally, says, oh, yeah, he's still a character, still this, that, and the other. And Hoddle sort of said under his breath, but then didn't pursue it because it was just going to be more negativity, which at the end of the day, he's not being paid for. Primarily, it's about, isn't this great, blah, 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 and adding colour. That's his job description. And said, yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, to think that they went all the way to South America in 1978 and bought them after they won a World Cup. I mean, that was mind-blowing. And I was a child at the time. I go on bang on about 12-year-olds. I was probably about 12. I'd have to work it out, maybe 13, 14 or something when we got. And I thought to myself, this is wildly ambitious. This is like you're having a birthday party at your friend's house and you go around there and there's a bona fide pop star at the party. You know, it's like, wow, you managed to pull this off. This is
Gary Glitter. Is it Gary Glitter?
Well, Rolf Harris is just autographing through there if you want to go in. The room's a bit dark, but don't worry about that.
It got to the point
now. Can
you
tell what it is yet?
It's got to the point now when you see the ambassadors in the ground, you won't forget what they did for the club or the accolades. Yeah. But I can't take Gary Mabbott seriously or Clive Allen because the amount of times I hear them on Talk Sport in the mornings saying how Ange is the man, we've got to get these players back who are injured to full fitness.
Yeah, they're part of the problem.
You're thinking, come on, see through it, see what every working man who follows Spurs can. This bloke's hopeless. He hasn't got a clue. The players are crap. Once we address those two problems, we might stand a chance. But you listen to it for your Mabbotts, your Allens, your Mickey Hazards. They all live in a world of delusion where
Clive Allen, for me, has really gone down in my estimation, and it's precisely because of what you say. And it's embarrassing to see them have to, through their financial circumstances, and that let's be honest with this, it's not a personal attack. You know, you can't begrudge a man a meal. The guy's got to eat. But Alan, I've watched on the Spurs Play channel, which is unwatchable propagandist dross, and him talking about, you know, what Spurs are offering during a game in which we're drawing 0-0 with some Japanese paper boys or whatever it might be in the pre-season. And I just think a part of his soul is dying. I just see the light ebbing away. He can't mean this dross that he's come out with.
And
you've seen though, haven't you? What happens? Sorry, Chris. You've seen what happens when you actually speak the truth. Because that's what Jose Mourinho did a week before the cup final. And you know what happened?
Yeah.
Well, you tell me one true Tottenham fan or past player who, in hindsight, can say that Australian tour a week after our final game of last season was a good idea. Because since then, the players were knackered after that season. They didn't want to go there. We shipped them halfway across the world to play a couple of vanity games. There was nothing to it other than a vanity project. Then since they came back, they hit a new season, and Ange's broken them all. So it wasn't responsible. It wasn't a good idea. And it's now they're talking that when we finish this season, guess what? We're on a plane off to South Korea. We're going to do our thing in Seoul.
Well, they're going to squeeze the pips out of Sonny, aren't they?
Yeah, we're going to do our thing in Seoul on a Thursday night.
But the thing that the only former player or anybody who has anything to do with the club that you have to admire is Skip, is the skipper, is Perryman. He's walked like a tightrope artist in a crosswind, going across, the New York skyline. The hazards of having a relationship, because he's publishing books and he's doing a little bit of live work, and he does a lot of work for charity, which he does. He's just such an excellent human being.
Again, neither
but
great
goodness
players,
me,
neither great players, but Raymond Vega and Jamie O'Hara. They neither go down in the School of Fame for Tottenham, but both are very vocal in media and social media, and they say what us as a working man thinks. And we lost our football club a number of years ago. We haven't won anything since 2007.
2008, yeah.
No,
2008.
Yeah, it was the Carling Cup. Woodgate bounced off his face goal.
But we've got into this malaise where we just go with the flow now. We're happy with our level of expectation is so low that we don't get irate about it anymore.
But there isn't any expectation, and as I've said in recent weeks, there's no critique, there's no attack or thought or whatever.
Just get by.
All we want is hope. We just want to be drip fed sustainable doses of hope, like a bloody gerbil in a cave going up to the thing, and when it puts his little mouth around the little metal spike thing, a drip of water comes down, and it keeps the gerbil going. That's where Spurs fans are. We're gerbils in a cage at a pet table in a school classroom. That's where we are. We're the gerbil that occasionally dies, and we get replaced with one the same color, and nobody notices because all the kids are about 7 or 8. It's an absolute travesty, the entire operation. But the only way you're going to get round it and attack it, and I mean attack, because you can't negotiate, as Golden Meyer said, you don't negotiate with somebody who's come to kill you. And we've seen from the last 25 years that Daniel Levy doesn't want to make any of us live a day longer than we can line his pockets. I mean, I don't know how true it is because it's Football Insider, but anyway, supposedly Levy blocked some stadium sponsorship thing. This is garbage. He would take anything at this stage, but he doesn't do it because he'd rather hold out and say the imaginary value for the naming rights is X and they only offered Y. And the Spurs fans that are so dumb that they follow him and believe him and think that he's a credible CEO, which he's not. He's a great manipulator and leverage master of money. But as a CEO of the business, there's a hell of a lot to be desired. And not doing something because it affects an artificially made up number that you've got in an envelope it's nothing shy of a disgrace. Nothing shy of a disgrace. It
all comes back to the same point that Chris has made constantly over the last few months. Is about reputational damage to the brand. Now, no one is going to pay any sort of decent money for the naming rights to a stadium for a team that's in 12th or 13th place and has got a reputation. I mean, again, Spursy. All you got to do is look at that, and that puts everybody off. Any serious investor would look up the word Spursy and go, "Yeah, screw that for a game of soldiers." Not having that at all.
Well, that's the thing.
Waste my money.
But that's the thing. We've got a Urban Dictionary nickname because they've now come out with this thing. You've got to call us Tottenham Hotspur. You've got to call us Spurs. But the truth is, we're not. We've got an Urban Dictionary nickname which is a pejorative. This you don't go. Oh look, they're really Spursy, which is like saying, well, oh, look, they're really a bit shit. That's the reality. So this guy is saying, I'm not selling this article, this product, this sponsorship deal, whatever it is, for X because I'm looking for Y or T or whatever the hell it is. But the reality is, it's just nuts. And this is why. But this is the thought process of an infrastructure guy.
Mm-hmm. But what I don't understand, I'm still struggling to understand this, and I've yet to hear any sort of credible explanation for this. Is that we had two world-class managers at the table. We had Conte and Mourinho, serial winners. He doesn't back them, gets rid of them at the first opportunity because they speak their mind. Yet Thick is absolutely taking us down the toilet with really crap football. And yet they're saying, yeah, we're going to stick with the manager. We see a future, blah, blah, blah. I mean,
because they can control him, they can manipulate him, they can manage him. He knows that he got the winning lottery ticket that night. He got offered the Tottenham job as he was the 8th choice. He walks into a job, 8 million, around 8-9 million a year.
I don't think it's that much. I reckon
probably be about 20 million for a 4-year contract. I would hazard a guess.
No, I don't think so. The people I've spoken to who have all been drunk, but don't worry about that. But the people I've spoken to estimate that he'll be lucky if even before tax, if he's seeing 6 or 7 before tax.
So over 4 million, that's potentially still 24 million quid, life changing.
He's absolutely had it off, to use the everyday parlance. But then this is a guy who will do what you tell him, and he will bring on Timo Werner, despite the fact that people are throwing themselves from the higher seats onto the pitch in an effort to take their own lives, because he'll just do whatever you want. He'll do whatever you want.
Well, whatever it is, 3 million, 8 million. The only thing I can say is none of it goes on suits.
That suit is an abomination. Sorry, I worked in the rag trade, and I know there are some people watching this go, "Oh no, going on about his clothes again." He is morbidly obese, which, if you look it up, and I did look it up because somebody took me to task with it the other week, if your waist is in excess of 40 centimeters, and I'm talking about where your waist is, not where you've got the belt straining, across your lower regions, and he's got this thing, and the jacket hanging off him. And the collar. I'm sorry, but this business of having your top button undone, but the tie pushed up, you just look like a fat bloke that's gone to Ascot for the day. He's had about 6 cans of cider before he's got on the coach. And the idea that you have a guy like that fronting your business, as we've said constantly, the reputational damage. He looks dreadful. And there's but this is the joke. This is the thing. Just to finish up on this personal attack, which is terribly, terribly bad form. But we had an Italian and a Portuguese coaches with exceptional serial winning CVs, but they weren't very nice. But you turn around, you say this jumped up, creased mess who's probably got dreadful halitosis and God knows what else going on for him. But you can't say anything bad against him, despite the fact he's clueless and his CV is like toilet paper written on it with a biro, because you're xenophobic because he's Australian.
Well, the amount of people referring to him as the PE teacher on social media, I think it's brilliant. Yeah, he's got about as much skill or tactical nous as the PE teacher.
But he's got the same levels of command that Tim Sherwood had, because Tim Sherwood always had that thing whereby, all right, slags, anybody gives me any lip and you'll be doing it in your underpants. And that is your classic PE teacher, I'm in charge. Well, and you would never have that from Conte or Mourinho. They would let you know they were in charge much faster and almost silently, because
they were professional people with experience working for professional clubs. Levy is far from professional. He wouldn't be able to manage any of us three. He'd pull out. He hasn't got any hair to pull out. But,
not a chance.
Yeah,
neither of
none of us. Dog in the corner. Who does
none of us would work.
Says.
None of us would work for Levy.
Thank you, Mr. Levy. Thank you. I'm very honoured and gracious.
Yeah, and as you carry your international watch company watch on the bus on the way home with the rest of your kebabs.
Engraved finalist.
Thank you for twying.
Yeah. Thank you for your loyal 50-year service.
Engraved with a 4-letter word ending in UNT on the back of it. I mean, seriously, do you know what you should have done? I don't know how much those watches are, probably the wrong end to 10 grand. Should have scratched finalist, had it drilled into the face. Absolute nitwit. I mean, is the lowest of the low.
At least one of the Liverpool players found it, they'd have felt at home.
But we keep mentioning Liverpool, but the thing to remember there again, and if people start to get the jitters when we mention Conte and Mourinho, look at Slot. Slot is exactly what we're talking about here. Slot came here and met with the board, because I know some of you love that phrase as if it means we've got something else going on. But they met with Levy and his little jackals that have all got business interests and all their other like, divisions of THFC Sporting Goods Limited, and said no, thank you. But you go into Liverpool and you hear him talk about the game. It's his second language. Now, we've had all this refugee fleeing from war-torn kebab shops nonsense from Ange. You know, how he's fought his way from size 32 waist to size 42.
What
This guy's
that sounds like Slot Street on a Saturday night.
Yeah, but Slot speaks in a second language effortlessly, and he understands the game. And he speaks with fondness and insight. And you can just see what a great manager he is and how he's made a really difficult transition from a lesser league to this league. Yet people are banging on about what Ange did in Japan and Scotland, as if it's even worth mentioning them by name. He's a prize that you get stuck on the front of a magazine that's launched. Oh, look what I've got. I've got a thing to lean on when I'm kneeling in the garden. Yeah, that's a crap bit of plastic there stuck on the front of the thing, mate. It's a balloon. It's a balloon. That's what Ange is. As far as management goes, he's a fucking balloon that you get sellotaped on the front of a comic.
Look at. So we're currently 13th. We're 13th by dint of goal difference. Yeah. So we could. I mean, if we're 13th because we are goal different. West Ham got rid of Lopetegui when they were 14th, and they were playing just as shit football as we are. So what's the difference?
Well, the difference is that West Ham can still realistically pick up the phone and phone everybody in football. Let's say there's 10 people you can phone in football, 100 people, whatever you want to call it. And most people will talk to them. Well, they'll talk to them, they'll have a conversation with them. There are certain people that won't talk to Levy. And our fan base has been so corrupted with this weirdo, nut job, incel crazy narrative. Oh, we would never do business with Chelsea. Why not? Why wouldn't you do business with Chelsea?
Yeah, when Chelsea have completely gone and it's now a bunch of Yanks that you would love to be getting in bed with them for.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd sell them players quicker than they could sign the checks. Yeah. But we don't do business with them. Why? What happened to you? Were you dropped on your head as a baby? You believe everything that this schmuck tells you. Oh no, we've got Timo Werner. We don't need to do business with Chelsea. We dine at the top tables, the finest restaurants, the most magnificent bars in Europe. We're actually around the back of a happy shopper drinking out of a paper bag. And it's heartbreaking. £1 billion stadium, and we've got this nonsense going on. And it is nonsense.
£1 billion stadium. We're serving up Happy Meals, aren't we?
Yeah, it is absolute junk. Absolute. And you're sat there in the freezing bloody cold with a 2-hour trip each way for the privilege. Yeah. And they're charging the pensioners as much as they can.
Don't talk about Phil like that. He might get a bit tetchy.
I like Phil. He's a good guy, proper football guy.
But you look at, on that point, you look at the foot in terms of the signings that we've had, and all we seem to have with even including Solanke, but even he's somehow mysteriously is the most money we've paid for anybody. We have players who cannot believe their luck they've landed here because because no other half decent team wouldn't assign them.
Yeah.
Why do you want to run away from the leisure facilities at Tottenham training camp, having chefs on, having masseurs available, having state-of-the-art technology, and realising there's no expectation you're ever going to win anything? You're not going to have to compete at the elite level. Oh, and you're not going to be away from your wife Wednesday and Thursday flying to European destinations. As under Fatso, we won't be in Europe next season. It's all very easy, isn't it? I'd have a bit of that if they offered it me.
Yeah, well, I was getting a foot rub, and she said my toenails have been growing, and I got her sacked in the end. I remember Mourinho pulled this stunt when he first rocked up at Hotspur Way, and it passed me by at the time because I just thought it was part of the charm of the foreign language, because the Portuguese, the Italians, for those of us who are over the age of 12, are familiar with librettos and opera, and the language, even today, when you translate it, is very flowery, you know, and they use phrases like, you know, they were seeking overtures of sincerity in the pursuit of this striker and stuff in their transfer columns. And Mourinho spoke about the green carpets of the lawns at Hotspur Way, and the fabulous duvets he referred to them as. And in actual fact, your average Spurs fan doesn't want to hear this. They want to hear that you're just sitting there going, oh, the facilities here are absolutely first rate. I couldn't, honestly, if you haven't experienced it, then you don't know. And these people who talk like that, like Ryan Mason, are bums. You know, absolute bums. Never been anywhere nice in their lives. Don't have any class. Absolutely classless.
This particular room you'll love. This is called a trophy cabinet, but ours is empty at the moment. So we're thinking of putting a 5-side football table in here, or snooker, or darts, or something.
We'll give you a complimentary meal with 1 free drink.
Yeah.
Which we've built into the price, you absolute clown. So you're not getting anything for free, and you're being fed. You're being fed 3 courses, like a mouthful of 3 different weird things that have been microwaved and put into 1 bowl. Happy Christmas! You've won the World Cup.
I can't help thinking when Mourinho was referring to those lawns and duvets and things like that, he was just having a massive piss take. Yeah, green carpets. He was having a massive. He was on a massive piss take, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He had to be, because, you know, and it's just like, you know, yeah, this is all very well, but I'd rather have a
winger. I'd rather have a winger. I'd rather have a guy who take his man on and go around him.
And a defensive midfielder. Yeah.
But what
guys, I'm going to have to jump very shortly, as I have got some other commitments I'm going to have to run to.
Are you going to have to change your shirt for those other commitments? Or?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
So, yeah, in conclusion, that's why we have James Maddison with his Harry Potter and his Canaries tattoo, because that's what the levels of expectation are.
And his whiny shit and his whiny boy shit attitude.
He knocked me over. Right. Thank you very much, everybody. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe. Don't smash anything. We don't encourage that at all. We've enjoyed this.
Apart from girls.
Absolutely. We will see you all again soon. Good luck and keep it Tottenham.
Other sexes are available.
Upon request. Prices to follow.
Right. It's been a